Alright, we're working through exercise 7.1 on page 234. And I have the start files already opened up. And I'm going to go into the code of form future value. And step 2 says add a try catch statement to button calculate.click. So I'm going to put this in here. I'm going to insert a code pattern for error handling. I need a try catch. And what we're going to try to do is all of this code. So I'm going to take all of my code that was previously in this sub procedure. I'm cutting it and pasting it into the try section. And we are catching invalid cast exception. And then I want another catch that is an overflow exception. So these are the two catches. We're catching these two things. And when this happens, what are we going to do? These catch blocks should display dialog boxes with appropriate error messages. So I'm going to peek over at page 215. That helps me out with this. So for invalid cast exception, this is being thrown. Let's see, can we get some help on this? Thrown for invalid casting or explicit conversion. So basically, like when we take tax monthly investment, when we read in this user's input and convert it to a decimal, if that fails, we weren't able to cast it into a decimal, then this will be thrown. So I'm going to do messagebox.show, and let's see, I am going to say in here, and I'm looking at page 215. Figure 7.6 on page 215 shows format exception, overflow exception, and then a generic exception. They don't explicitly show an invalid cast exception, but that's okay. We can figure this out. So we're going to say an invalid cast exception has occurred. Please check all entries. So that I'm just borrowing from the book, and I'm going to give it a title here. And I guess we're just going to say entry error. All right. So that's my invalid cast exception. I'm going to take my message box show, just do a copy paste for my overflow exception. This happens, you know, if we put in 99 years, then our future value could grow really, really big and it might overflow. So if that's the case, we want to catch this. All right, and for an overflow exception, this is coming right from page 215. I'm just saying an overflow exception has occurred. Please enter smaller values. And we're also calling that entry error. Okay, so those are my message boxes. That was step 2. So I should be able to hit F5 here, run this. So my monthly investment, I'm going to put in just garbage there, hit calculate. Invalid cast exception has occurred because we weren't able to convert this. And if I have an interest rate of 50% for 99 years, okay, let's go even bigger, 500% for 99 years. There we go, overflow exception. So instead of the application just dying, it fails nicely. And actually, let me show you. I'm going to comment that out and comment out my try. So basically here, this is just going to run with no error handling. I should have showed you this first. But if I just put something in here, it just dies. So that's what our error handling does. It catches those input errors. All right, we want another catch block that'll catch any other exception. So remember that this has to be your final catch block. Because with your exceptions, you want it to be the most precise exception to the, like I guess like your widest net exception at the end here. So if it's not an overcast, invalid cast exception or an overflow exception, we're going to catch every other exception here. And this could be anything else. And for this one, we're actually going to use ex.message and ex.getType.toString. So what this is doing is it's showing the exception message, and then it's taking the type of the exception, converting it to a string. This is the title of the message box, and this is the message that goes within the box. The catch box block should display a dialog box that displays the message contained in the exception object, that's this, along with the exception type, that's this, and the stack trace. Alright, I was not prepared for this. Let's see if we can figure this out. So I'm going to put some blank lines in there. And I need an underscore here. Alright. It did not like this. Okay, there we go. So I'm showing the exception message, 2 blank lines, and then the stack trace converted to a string. All right, and if we try this right now, you know, these 2 exceptions or catches are going to be triggered before this one. So I'm going to comment this out. This is just for me to show you what's going on. I'm going to run this. And there you go. So this is what got thrown down here. This final, or this last catch got thrown. And you see that the type is invalid cast exception. This is the message, conversion string ASDA VESDA to type decimal not valid. And here's the stack trace. Okay, but I want those, keep those turned on. Alright, that was step 3. Step 4, add a throw statement to the future value procedure that throws an exception. So here's future value, and somewhere in here, doesn't matter what's going on, we're going to, and I think I can do this with a throw an exception. There we go, in the code pattern. And it says just throw, what does it say again? Throw an exception of the exception class. So we're using the exception class. And this can be whatever you want. So this is my exception for step 4. That's fine. So now when I run this, no matter what happens when the future value, even if I put good values in here, when future value is called, it's going to throw this exception, and it's being caught by this, you know, catch here. And you can see the type is exception. This is the message that got sent through, and there's the stack trace. So great, no matter what, that gets thrown. If the exception is thrown and the last catch block works, it did. Okay. Comment out the throw. So just make sure you take this when you're done. Comment that line out so I can see that you still did it, but that it's not going to stop your application from running. Alright, just clean that up a little bit. Now we're going to go on to step 5, which is code an in is valid data procedure that calls the 4 generic procedures that this application includes. So this application has for us is present, is decimal, is int 32, and is within range. And we're going to use those when we code this procedure, and you can get an idea of what this is going to look like by peeking at page 225. So we're going to start there. I'm going to create a private function, and we're calling this is valid data, and it's a Boolean. And what this, it's returning a Boolean value. This is going to return the result of using the different helper functions from our application. So let me just code one of these and then explain what's going on. So right now, is valid data, not is valid date. Is valid data will return true if tax monthly investment is filled in. So if you look at this is present, can I click on this and take me there? Yep. Is present takes in a text box and a name of that text box. And if the value of the text box is empty, then it shows this, does a message box and returns false. Well, and it selects that text box that you sent through and returns false. So right here, if is present returns false, then is valid data will return false because it's getting returned false there. And we're going to pile these things on. So tax monthly investment needs to be present. Also, it needs to be a decimal value, and we can peek to that. Is decimal right here. We're doing this try parse, and if we're able to parse the input as a decimal, then return true. Otherwise, show it must be a decimal value. Select that text box and return false. Again, piling these things on together. So we made sure that, and then we also do is within range. And is within range takes in four arguments, and it's basically saying that monthly investment needs to be between 1 and 1,000. Okay, we're going to do the same thing with interest rate. So I'm going to take these things, just copy them, paste right here, get this lined up. This is txt interest rate. And interest rate should be between 1 and 15. And also, and remember, this and also means if this first one fails, it does not check the next one and the next one and the next one. As soon as one failure hits, this whole thing returns false. But if it's true, then it continues on. And that's important because we're making sure that monthly investment is present before we try to convert it to a decimal. We make sure it can be converted to a decimal before we check to see if it's within this range. So the order of these actually matters as well. So be careful with that. And then we're going to do the same thing text years. So if any one of these is false, then when you AND them all together, it's false, and it'll get returned as false. But if every one of these is true, when you AND them together, this whole statement is true, and it gets returned as true. And that's what isValidData is doing. All right, so then we actually have to use isValidData. And I'm going to put this right here. And I'm going to put all of my code inside this if isValidData. And when I run this, you can see that it's testing. These are not the exception handlers. This is the isValidData, and the helper functions are being triggered. And to prove that, and to finish up step 7, isValidData handles all the exception handling. So I can take that out of there. I'd like this to be formatted right. So I commented out my try and all of my catches. And when I run this now, same thing. So this is data validation because I'm not using exception handling here. I'm actually looking at the values and testing it myself. If I want my monthly investment to be $50,000 at a 50% interest rate for 12 years, there you go, you get an entry error. Between 1 and 1,000, that came from this one right here. And that is step 7 and all of 7.1.